let's speak about some more keys to healing. In this teaching, I want to share with you 4 ways that you can absolutely transform and shift any difficult situation that you're experiencing on the inside of yourself or outside in your world. So let's get started. First thing is start with the inside out. A lot of times in our lives, we'll try to fix how we feel on the inside by changing what we do on the outside in our lives, in our situations, in our routines. Nothing wrong with that, and it's actually essential, and I'll get to that in step 2 about how we do that effectively. But the most effective way that I've seen people heal and feel better is by becoming aware on the inside, and really aware, meaning that we spend time to be with ourselves and connect with ourselves even when there are compelling emotional reasons not to, meaning it's painful or it's uncomfortable. That act of being with ourselves promotes a certain attitude of self-acceptance, which has us soften, which has us become more resilient, which has us become more free eventually, because through our pointed awareness and our attention on the inner state, how we are, whether it's good or bad, so to speak, how we really are, it provides information for us around what we do on the outside as opposed to trying to fix. A key distinction of transformation and real transformation, not just change and changing the outside or changing, like I've talked about before in my life, how I changed geographically and just brought myself to a different place and still brought my suffering with me. A real aspect, a key aspect to transformation is being with ourselves and getting how we really are, what the nature of our discomfort is. Now, I don't mean just kind of analyzing or like peeling back the layers incessantly and getting all kind of compulsive about it or obsessed about it. That's not what I mean. I mean really being with ourselves. So, for example, I've had a daily practice for 17 or 20 years of doing this, of being with myself. And at the beginning, for the first couple months, it was quite uncomfortable, but I felt there was some value in it because people told me there was, and I trusted the people that said that there was. They were spiritual leaders. They were people that had done this a lot longer than I had. And as I practiced, and I sat with myself in the extreme discomfort that I felt, because I was a person who did a lot. Like I would run through the mountains of Colorado or do high performance rock climbing because I enjoyed it, yes, but I was also trying to fix something on the inside and actually avoid an experience of myself. So it wasn't all bad or all good, right? It was a combination because I didn't spend enough time just being with myself and being with what I would characterize as anxiety and an extreme lack of fulfillment that probably most therapists would call depression, at that time in my life. So all this to say, in the first step, just spend time with the inside, and then let the inside inform what we do on the outside. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, once we really understand what's going on for us, meaning we feel insecure, we feel unfulfilled, we feel lack of peace, we feel restless, we feel angry, whatever it is, spending time once we're familiar with that, then go into the outside world with that informed awareness and start to make choices that are informed by that awareness around, I'm really unfulfilled. And it's hard to say that because I don't feel that way now, but I've said that before. I came to terms with that at one point in my life. And it was a vulnerable moment because I didn't want to actually admit that to myself, how I felt deeply unfulfilled in my life because it was vulnerable. And I definitely didn't say it to anybody else at that time because I was so deeply insecure. But I eventually got to this point of I really need help. And that I stopped to a point, I stopped avoiding that experience inside myself and I started getting help. I went to spiritual teachers, I went to therapists, I did men's work, I did vision quests, I did a lot of different things that were informed in addressing the actual need inside of myself as opposed to trying to fix the feeling. right? Now, this isn't black and white, right? There's a nuance to this, because if I don't feel good, like I did things outside and again, a little too obsessively, but I did things outside because it did provide a certain level of fulfillment. But I found that there was a limit to how much doing things physically and exercising actually addressed that lack of fulfillment. There was a limit. And the lack of fulfillment, the real discontent, didn't get healed, we could say, or didn't get addressed by all the things I was doing, right? So, first step, inside out. Second step, outside in, right? Once we are informed by what's going on inside of us, go out into the world and make informed choices that will really address the deeper issue, we could say, or deeper experience inside of ourselves, right? Okay, number 3, being with ourselves promotes emotional resilience. So that act of going within and being with ourselves, I'm not using the term meditation here because it has so many concepts around it. When I say being with ourselves, I mean you could just, ideally you're sitting in silence and stillness. Eyes open, eyes closed, doesn't matter. But sitting with yourself, being with yourself, facing yourself. I don't want to say confronting because that has this aggressive act to it, but being with ourselves, holding ourselves, being held in whatever we're going through promotes emotional resilience, which we'll use to do things that address the inner discontent. The emotional resilience will come online as we go out into the world and have to make difficult but good choices that we know for ourselves are going to be important for us to make, right? So number 3, being with ourselves promotes the emotional resilience we need to change our life. And number 4, the final thing here is that beingness, that being with ourselves, sitting with ourselves, facing ourselves, accepting ourselves promotes a strengthened intuition. And that intuition will also inform choices in our lives as we go out there with this informed awareness. We'll listen, we'll be guided in a way to take the kind of actions that will create the greatest result for us and that are the perfect match for what we need to do in that moment. I remember, again, 20 years ago when I was starting this path, that I would go out into the world and I just knew, it's intuition, I could call it intuition now, but because I had started to spend time with myself and I started to become more emotionally resilient, actually not that resilient at that time. It took a lot longer because I was deeply insecure and very resistant at that time, right? But I did open to my intuition before I became resilient and I would say vulnerable and secure enough to be tender and vulnerable with others and share myself in a meaningful way with others. Before that, as in the being with myself, I started to form a relationship with my intuition. So I'd meet somebody. We didn't have things online back then like we do now, but I would meet somebody or I'd hear about somebody and I would just think like, oh, I should hire them. Like I should pay them to sit with me, right? And it didn't work every time. And I actually formed, and this is what will happen with you, is that you'll feel a feeling to do something or to meet somebody or to make a phone call or to look at something online. And some of the times it'll be like, nah, that wasn't really what I was looking for, but great. You're showing to yourself and to the universe out there, which is really in here, that you're willing and that you're willing to take action. You're willing to leave your comfort zone. You're willing to put yourself out there. And through that process, through those choices, through those actions, you'll find more and more that you're connected to yourself. And what I would call that intuition, that inner guidance that has you drawn to certain conversations, to certain people, to certain information, to certain habits that you want to have in yourself. All right? So inside out, outside in, beingness, sitting with yourself, promotes resilience that you need. And it also promotes listening and strengthening with your intuition. All right. All my best to you. I'm with you in this.